You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of All Time 11 right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Got a very special guest this week. I'm joined by the Kilmarnock Scottish Cup winning captain. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Ray Montgomerie onto the show. Thanks very much for joining me, Ray. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for that introduction, Scott. And believe me, it is a pleasure, pal. It is a pleasure. I'm delighted to come on your show this morning.
Brilliant. How are you doing? All right?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. You know what I mean? As well as it can be expected. Just like everybody else I was saying to you earlier, Scott. You know what I mean? These are difficult times for everybody, and it's football like everybody else. You know.
Definitely. Just obviously, we'll talk about your career as well. You started off with Saltcoats Victoria, and then get the big move to Newcastle. Not many players do that. What was your experience at Newcastle like?
How did that come about? That was some leap, going for the juniors to one of the top teams in England. You know, it just happened. I was just fresh out of school, a youngster at the time. I was went down and played for my local junior team. Started in blasting a few goals in at the time and played up front. They put me up front because I was blessed with some pace. Yeah. And they hire Newcastle United. But then when I went down there, I realised that, geez, I'm not really a forward, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was through my school days, but they picked me up, took me down there because I think they saw the pace that I had at the time.
Yeah.
So, but I was never comfortable playing up front. You know, I was always more comfortable at the back.
Yeah. So, who were the good players you came across when you were down there?
Good players you came across. Well, who springs to mind? Chris Waddle. That's who I used to train me. So I think that's the one you. Yeah, the younger listeners won't remember people like Peter With, but he won the European Cup with Aston Villa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So he did. John Brownlee,
mm-hmm.
Scottish internationalist. You know, they were the players. Terry Hibbett, big Newcastle boy at the time. But then a certain Paul Gascoigne signed the same season I signed.
Did he?
So he's a youngster. He's 4 or 5 years behind us. But we didn't know that at the time. But later on in my career, when Paul came up to play with Rangers here,
yeah,
we exchanged stories and we were there at the same time. Of course, he went on to far bigger things than myself. But that was the sort of names like that. Gascoigne and Waddle, sort of the one that stick out for your listeners.
Yeah, definitely. You come back up to Dumbarton. What was your experience like there? Who was a good kind of stories you had for there?
Yeah, when I came back up to Dumbarton, you know, I mean, they were one of the teams that I could have signed for before I went down to Newcastle. And my parents and that said, well, you owe them, no, go back. They were the first team ever came in for you. So when you come back up the road, they came back in for me, and I ended up at Dumbarton. You know, we had a really good time at Dumbarton. You know, we had a really good team. We played in the Premier League, 83, 84, something. First team at Dumbarton never done it. You know, we had good players like Sir Oney Coyle, you know, Albert Craig, you know, John Burton. It was Alan Kay. It was a really good period in Dumbarton's history. You know, fun memories there. You know, and I like to keep that association with the club as well. You know, one of the ex-clubs, and I always like to see them doing well. It's one of the results I look for on a Saturday.
Brilliant. You get your dream move. You go to Kilmarnock. Who signed you for Kilmarnock?
Eddie Morrison signed me for Kilmarnock. So he did, and you know, they were a local team, and I could have actually went to Kilmarnock the season before I did, but in those days in football, you were held to contracts. So they were, you know, clubs I was under contract at the time, and I was desperate for it. I needed a move, you know. I stayed at Dumbarton too long, you know. And the way you stay at clubs because you get friendly with the guys, yeah, obviously your teammates and all that. You end up staying a wee bit longer than what I should have. And Kilmarnock came in for me. Dumbarton wouldn't let me go, and I ended up at the end of the day, it was quite sad actually because I had to walk out in Dumbarton. You know, I refused. So I took the gamble and walked out in Dumbarton, and Eddie came in for me at Kilmarnock, and that was the best thing that happened to me, obviously. Do you know what I mean? I just loved that, you know.
Definitely. One manager I want to touch on that you had a good time at Kilmarnock with was Tommy Burns. What's your favourite Tommy Burns story?
Oh, I've got many stories I could tell you about Tommy. Do you know what I mean? He was, no doubt about it, he was the favourite manager that I played under, you know, and a very special person as well. Scott, you know what I mean? He affects your life, do you know what I mean? He plays a big part in your life if you ever come across that man, you know, and became very friendly with him. What's my favourite Tommy Burns stories? I don't know. I've got the hot-headed Tommy Burns, I've got the humorous Tommy Burns. You know what I mean? He went from one extreme to the other. You know, but probably one humorous one that comes to mind is when he was there as a manager, and just before he left, I had been doing well. You know, he'd fit me into centre back, and I was really doing well, and my contract was up at the end of the season, you know, and at the time, believe it or not, quite a few teams were sniffing about. And Tommy Burns said to me at the end of the season, you know, there's your contract, blah, blah, blah. Sign it, you know. And I hadn't signed the contract, you know.
Yeah.
I had the contract. I'd lie there for about 6 or 8 weeks. Unsigned. Tommy was away in America and everything like that. And the board of directors were getting a wee bit, maybe worried. I don't know. I don't think worried was but they're wanting it signed, and they were getting Tommy. And Tommy came back for his holiday and came in and took me aside and took me inside the contract and backdated my pay for the 8 weeks, although I hadn't signed it. Do you know what I mean? So that was what Tommy's. That was his honest side of it. That's the sort of guy he was. His word was his bond, and although I hadn't signed for it, I gave my word to him. We shook on it. The deal was done. It was made, and that was it. And he knew it was safe. The directors didn't know it was safe, but he knew it was safe. And but the good thing about it was I wasn't expecting it to be backdated, you know, the past 6 weeks, and that's what he done.
Brilliant guy. Obviously, your highlight of your Kilmarnock career would be the Scottish Cup win. Obviously, you were the captain. How big an honour was that to go in to lift the trophy as the Scottish Cup as the winning captain? How was that? Would you say that was the pinnacle of your career?
Oh, I definitely was. You know, I've seen the guys you've had on here, you know, that played in that era, and they'll all say that's probably the best time of their career.
Yeah.
And I was one of the ones that was coming to the end of their career then, so you savoured that. It might not be a bit more because you weren't going to get another hit at it again. Well, I wasn't getting another hit at it again. Subsequently, some of the younger guys in that team who you thought maybe would get a hit of again didn't get a hit of again. It shows you don't know when it's going to happen, because it happens all the time for them, you know. But for teams like ourselves, it's very special. It doesn't come along too often, and it was a huge day. To be captain was a pleasure, a privilege to be captain. But the whole team, you know, a team of 11 captains in that team, you know, everybody took command of their situations, you know. They were all like captains, you know. I mean, I was just the one that one was named, and Tommy Burns had actually made me captain of Kilmarnock a few seasons before, and it just sort of followed me on. And so you think more of it after it's passed and everything like. You look back and go, oh, I was a captain that day, you know. But at the time, you don't think about it so much, Scott, to be honest with you. But it was a fantastic time.
Brilliant. It must be the highlight of your career. We'll make a restart in your team, obviously. We touched on this before we come on air. You're going for players you played against in your career?
I'm going for players that I played against in my career for a simple reason. I've listened to some of your interviews and all that, the guys on it, and don't believe any crap they come away with saying, well, I had to leave this one. They all want to be in their team. Oh, this is my mate, that was my mate. They all want to play. See the guys you play with. We all want to be in their teammates' best team. They're all desperate to be in it. Do you know what I mean? So I said, well, I'm not going to offend any of them. I says, I'll pick a team who I played against. Most of these guys played against. I says, and then they'll not be offended, because I couldn't. To be honest with you, the guys that I played with at Kilmarnock over the year, I'd be doing them a disservice if I was to pick one before the other. Yeah. Maybe look at the easy way out, but I like to. I'm a bit impartial. You know what I mean? It's unfair on them, because they've all played. Everything at Kilmarnock's done over here. They've all played their part of it. Do you know what I mean? Oh,
absolutely, yeah. What's your formation you're going to go with?
Right, well, too many things. You know, you look at football now. These formations: diamond shapes, 3-5-2s, 5-3-2s, 4-4-2, 4-1s, all these formations. And I watch football every Saturday in life. I watch football, you know, and everybody goes on about all these formations. You know what I mean? And about 10 minutes into the game's changing so much, you know what I mean? They don't really know about the formations. The managers could hand you a sheet of paper to describe it, whatever. That's my formation today, and do something different. They wouldn't notice. Do you know what I mean? Basically, you've got a defence, you have midfield, you have attack. And the object of the game is to score more goals than the other team, in simple form. It's an easy game, football. But for simplicity's sake, I'll put them down as 4 defenders, 4 midfield and 2 forwards.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant. We'll make a wee start. We'll start off with the goalkeeper. Who you got in the goalkeeper position?
Well, played it right again. Played top goalkeepers, you know. I would say the best goalkeeper I've played against would be, they're all mad, the goalkeepers, aren't they? They're a sensible one yet. But it'd have to be Gorham.
Right.
Rangers, do you know what I mean? It'd have to be Gorham at Rangers. And there's a few goalkeepers in there. I played against Paddy Bonner, you know what I mean? He's a fantastic goalkeeper. Paddy, you know, in my younger days, played against Paddy for organisation, knowing the game and goalkeeping. There's nobody like Paddy, you know what I mean? But I've got to say, your daft man, Gorham would get it, you know. And the thing about Andy is, wasn't the biggest goalkeeper? I wouldn't say had a presence in the penalty box. What I like a goalkeeper to have, like Paddy Bonner, he had a presence in the penalty. Andy Gorham wasn't a tall goalkeeper, you know. Yeah. But my goodness, for organising his defence and getting people round about him to defend the goalmouth, he certainly was something else. And I don't know if you remember, you know, all his back passes, he'd always been commanding him. Do you know what I mean? He's coming out and pure the line, setting up attack, and a safe pair of hands, 1-on-1. You know what I mean? You know, there's a thing about players didn't know if they was 1-on-1, if they would score against him. You know, that puts them in the back foot right away. That gives Andy a start right away. Do you know what I mean? If you're thinking, am I going to score against this keeper? You're already thinking negatively. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fantastic goalkeeper. You know what I mean? 1-on-1 situations, and hardy boy as well. You know, you just bounce off him. You know, I think there's no doubt about it. Best goalkeeper I've played against. And I think probably the best goalkeeper our country's had as well. I see there's a wee bit of debate going on now. McGregor is a fantastic keeper as well. You know what I mean? But a wee bit of debate going on with folk now who's the best keeper. But I think you've got to say, you know, the things he's done in the game as well. You know, the clubs that he's played for.
Yeah,
you know, and
definitely.
Talking about the end of his career, going down to help out Manchester United, and that's the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't be described as sort of an athletic goalkeeper, you know, but certainly, I say certainly like him to, if there's somebody behind her, like it to be him, you know.
Definitely, brilliant. We'll move on to right back. Who you got in right back? Right back. That was easy. You know, my right back and my left back were easy, but I don't know, like any youngsters out there will ever remember to go to their dads to. I'll tell you the two fullbacks at the same time, because of the two best fullbacks in Scottish football, widely acknowledged with players and media people and people I like. I go for, you wouldn't believe I played against the two of them, but I actually did at the end of their career. Would be Sandy Jardine and Danny McGrain. Right, okay.
So you don't even remember them playing, you know?
No, I don't know. That's way before my time.
You'd have to go to video to see the guys, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But you've heard of them, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's your favour about them. I mean, I'm sounding like an old here, do you know what I mean? But I was starting my career, and I was fortunate enough to play against them both, you know what I mean? When I was at Dumbarton at the time, when Danny was against Celtic, and Sandy when he played for Hearts.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It's when they nearly won the league.
I think it was his last season or something like that.
Yeah.
And playing against them, I've never come up against it. You're just a young boy, and I used to. When I was a young boy, you know what I mean? I was brought up, you know, going to Scotland games, and your Jardine, McGrain, these fullbacks who have been world beaters that everybody's saying and watching them through the sidelines and everything. And then all of a sudden you become a young pro, and you end up playing these guys at the end of their career, and you play against them. And I'm saying, how on earth did I get in the same football park as they two guys? you know, and it's so I would challenge anybody your teams to get 2 fine fullbacks and that means their time as well, because you think you're like you're in the modern game and you're attacking wing backs and that, then they were 2 overlapping fullbacks at a time. But most importantly, thing, Scott, was you knew how to defend.
Yeah.
You knew how to defend. You knew what defending was all right. And a time when defending was an art as well, do you know what I mean? It was part of the game. So it was, and how they could read a game and what you could learn off them. And, you know, they were ones I was glad to play against, you know what I mean? Never thought it would happen, but...
Am I right in saying that Sandy Jardine and Danny McGrain, they were both right backs, and as well, it was obviously...
Aye, both right backs, aye.
The hardest thing was obviously...
If it's good enough for Scotland to put them in high position, it's certainly good enough for me.
Yeah, because I think it was Ali McLeod, I think it was maybe Andy Roxburgh that said the hardest job he had was to put Sandy Jardine and Danny McGrain in together, because obviously Danny McGrain could play left back. He said that was his best, one of the best things he had as manager, was putting them in together.
So I'll put you back there, young, you know.
Definitely, that's a brilliant pick. Brilliant.
But I'll put up against anybody. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely, they're great picks. We'll move on. Yeah, brilliant. We'll move on to centre back. We'll start off with left-sided centre back. Who you got there?
We'll do the two of them together as well, right?
Definitely.
That's about it, right? Muller and McPike.
Brilliant.
What do you think of that?
Brilliant. I'm surprised I didn't think. I keep forgetting. I was thinking Kilmarnock. I'm thinking, there's obviously players that have played in Dumbarton.
It's knocking you back, isn't it? It's knocking you back. It's knocking you off your stool there. Do you know what I mean? Did he play against them? Do you know what I mean? So Muller and McLeish. So what do you say about them?
Exactly.
What can I say about them that you don't know? What can I say about them that other people don't know? Do you know what I mean? Willie Miller. What a partnership that was. You know, I mean, how good was he at reading a game?
Exactly.
How good was he at reading a game? How good was Alan McLeish winning aerial battles and Willie just hanging off and sweeping up things? How good was McLeish and what presence did McLeish have? Do you know what I mean? So I'd absolutely. And then when I was thinking that, I could have put Richard Goff in. You know what I mean? I was thinking of Richard Goff. I was thinking of Terry Butcher.
Yeah.
But then I'm saying, but I've got to go for how the two of them would play together. I mean, I could have put Richard Goff at right back. I could have put Richard Goff at centre back. You know, that's the problems I was faced with the sort of defensive side of it. You know, or Stephen. You know what I mean? It was hard picking it wasn't hard picking the back four, but I had a few there's a few in there. I mean, the ones that I've noted, you're saying brilliant now, but Muller and McLeish was, I mean, they carried at Aberdeen in the 80s, you know, that's unfair to the rest of the squad saying that, but they certainly had a big influential part in Aberdeen in the 80s. And,
yeah, absolutely.
So they did. So that'd be my back four. So it would be
solid enough, isn't it?
McGrain.
It's a solid back four.
Oh yeah, just a bit. But that's takes you back a wee bit, right enough.
Definitely, it's a brilliant back.
You could every single one of them. Imagine that back four now.
I know exactly. See, just when we're on the defence, obviously you were a centre back. Who were the best players you played alongside at centre back? Like obviously, I think was it some great players in the kind of new closer years towards the end of your career. But who would you say was your kind of best partners when you played at centre back?
Then you get into picking your best team, don't you? When I'll tell you the best players I'm playing against. That defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Gets you the best players that I've played with. But no, I played, like I said, players you played. I mean, I had good partnerships with Andy Mullen, a good partnership with Kevin McGowan, you know, at centre. You know what I mean? They were good partnerships. I feel like it's the centre backs. I think it's more to do with a partnership, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the individual.
Yeah.
You know, from a football point of view, I think that's an area apart where, like, if you can form a good partnership with your two centre backs, That's the key there, to rather than having one strong, one weak. If you get it, two of them, they can hit it off. I think that's the most important thing for the team.
Definitely.
I didn't get into management back by my way. I think, that's how like some of them at Creasy. There were two people that played as one sort of thing. Tell apart, tell each other was doing, so they knew instinctively what position to get, depending where the other one was, Yeah. And if you get that telepathy going between your two centre backs, it's good. It's rare, but it's good. So it's.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's important when you're picking a side or playing a side. You've got to get the balance right in the team. You've got to get the ingredients right in the team. The best teams it's not your best 11 players. It's how they all blend. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why the Kilmarnock Scottish Cup winning team done so well, because they were just a balanced team.
You look at the Kilmarnock team, and that's what I was saying to you there. I said it wasn't the best 11 players that probably ever played for Kilmarnock. You know what I mean? But there wouldn't be many teams in Kilmarnock's history would beat it. You know what I mean? The mixture of the team, you had the youth in the team, you had the experience in the team, you had pace in the team, you had the goal threat, you had people that could read the game in there, you had a stillness as well in the middle of the park and defence. You knew how people knew when to defend, when you went to attack, when you went to cover for each other. You know what I mean? There was no you've heard it before, you've heard all that before, but no superstars and that. There definitely was no superstars, but you put all that mixture together, and for some reason it all comes right, and then in a given day, it all comes together and it all clicks,
Definitely.
That Kilmarnock team that won the cup in '97, they only played one game together, that team, and it was the final. It was the final. That team never ever played a round before it or a round after or a game after it. Only played one game that starting. That was that day.
Brilliant.
You know what I mean? No, but it's a bit of a mixture, and I think that's in the Kilmarnock team in '97. We certainly had the mixture, but we're a very good team as well. Everything's got to be right about the place, Scott. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be. It's got to be right behind the scenes. You know what I mean? You've got to have the support of a lot of people around the club.
Absolutely.
Take the part, everything, the supporting mechanism, all about the place and the structure of the place, all got to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Any football club.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll move on to the midfield. We'll start off with left wing. Who you got there?
Left wing, I went for Davy Cooper.
Brilliant.
Davy Cooper was played against Davy a right few times, you know what I mean, and obviously taken away for us far too early, and just a magician, you know what I mean. He could do that left foot of his, you know what I mean. You'll have seen video footage to actually play against a guy like that on several occasions and all that, and it was a pleasure, you know what I mean. So I tough to say Davy Cooper.
Brilliant.
Yeah, nobody came near him out there. Do you know what I mean? I'd Loudrup. Do you know what I mean? Loudrup, another one that was thinking about out there. But tough to be. It was Davy Cooper had far more in his closet than Loudrup, you know.
Definitely brilliant. We'll move on to right wing. Who we got on the other side?
The other side would be Paul Di Canio.
Right. Okay.
Madman, absolute madman. I mean, boy, could he play football? You know what I mean? There's things that he could do with a ball, and his attitude towards training and everything like that. You know what I mean? I remember the one pre-season week, the first season he arrived at Parkhead. Going into the following pre-season, we were back early at pre-season training. We were up Strathclyde Park. Pre-season training. Celtic weren't even back for pre-season. Paul Di Canio had his own personal trainer with him out in Strathclyde Park that day when we were up there. He was already at his cell. You know what I mean? He's how far ahead's that? I mean, that's 20 odd years when he's got his own personal trainer there with him before the season starts, and but a full time, not just to look after to tee him up, and how he approached the game. You know, but he's an absolute madman. He's first. I think. I might be right in saying, certainly not made his debut. His first game for Celtic was against Kilmarnock, I think. we were playing them at Rugby Park and winning 1-0. So there, he came on with about half an hour to go, and we had a young boy playing for us at left back called Gary Tallon. So we did it at Rugby Park, and DeCanio came on and changed the whole game. We got beat 2-3-1. The game finished up. That was the first time we came across him, and the speed of him, do you know what I mean? He just took the boy to ribbons. Gary, I think, only played about 2 games for us after that. An absolute nightmare that game he had, but Paul DeCanio was up, you know what I mean? And he was a troublesome guy, you know what I mean? But that aside, I wouldn't like to be playing against him every week, you know what I mean?
Nah, definitely not. We'll move on to centre midfield. Are you done a left and a right, or is it just 2 together?
Just 2 together, but the 2 together would be Souness and Gascoigne. Right,
okay. That's some too, isn't it? I'd love to see that together.
Well, you look at your defence here, and you look at your. these are guys that I've actually played against. You know what I mean? I'm saying, what the hell was I doing in the park with these folk? Do you know what I mean? And but football in Scotland, particularly in the 90s, you know what I mean? And well, a wee bit earlier for the likes of McLeish at the 80s, like
yeah.
Look at you never. I don't personally think we'll see these players again in Scottish football.
Yeah.
But played against Souness for Kilmarnock when he just took over the manager of Rangers, and he actually played in Alan McCullough's testimonial game.
Right. Okay.
Time he played at Rugby Park, and he came and played that. He played that game because he said he'd play that game. My God, what a hard man. Jeez. He's flipping hell. He just go through you. You know what I mean? And everything. He's so much time in the ball. Do you know what I mean? That was him to finish his career. I'm a relatively young man. Playing against. Look at what we did at Liverpool. You know, and he's come up here, and I found myself albeit in a testimonial game at Rugby Park. You know what I mean? Playing against this phenomenal player who's done it all, you know, European Cups, played in the world stage, and Souness, you know what I mean, the things you would like to aspire to when you look at some of the players, when you look at other players that I've picked, you know. Yeah. You know, tough to be Souness, you know.
Definitely. When you speak about Gascoigne as well, obviously you spoke earlier on about the stories you had with him. What was some of the best ones you can remember?
Well, Gascoigne came up, and he played, obviously he came up and signed for Rangers, and I think when he came from it, I think Rangers actually got the best year out of him.
Yeah, I've always said that, yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody thought he would come to Scotland and just coming to the end of his career or something, he's bothered with injuries. You'll find it hard going with playing up here in Scotland. And I think Gascoigne came and proved everybody wrong. Not he had anything to prove, but I think he took everybody. He surprised a lot of people, you know, and playing against him was something else. You know, he was things he I mean, they said about, I remember, saying about Loudrup and Loudrup, no disrespect, they couldn't come near Gascoigne, do you know what I mean? Gascoigne was so far ahead. Anybody had played with, the best player I've ever played against, you know what I mean? He was so far ahead. And after, they played Rangers at Ibrox one night, and we took the lead 1-0 early doors, you know, and the second half of the game, Gascoigne had got the ball at the halfway lines, you know what I mean? And we were a well-drilled team here, you know, you've Gary Holt, Mark Riley, Gus McPherson, good hardy players, you know, and Gascoigne got the ball at the halfway line, took it back to our midfield, into our box, and slotted the ball down in the far corner, you know what I mean? What a goal it was, you know what I mean? Hell, do you know what I mean? How do you do that? Do you know what I mean? And he ran into the goal, followed the ball in. He was that eager to get back up the park and keep going. You know, he had a great appetite for the game, and gets the ball and he's running by me. And I just turned and says as he passed me, "Great goal, Paul." You know what I mean? I just done that. He ran by me about 20 years or something. He came all the way back with the ball and shoot my horn, and he goes, "Thanks for that." Went back to the ball to the centre circle, and I thought I was good. And then after the game, that night we were in and I seen him after the game. I said, unbelievable performance. Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that when somebody, a football player, is giving me a wee bit of appreciation like that.
Yeah.
And I went into a conversation with Newcastle. And, all right, mate, you know, when you tell me a conversation, it sort of subsequently turned out that we knew all the same people, we'd been to the same bit. He was 5-6 years younger than me. I'd signed in the January. He'd signed in the January and he'd signed as a young boy under 13. I was under 18-year-old, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
It was a good crack reminiscing just about people then. It was good, do you know what I mean? But it was, but he was a phenomenal player, you know, a phenomenal player. And he was so, do you know what I mean? A very, very, you know, his troubles and all that, but we were here to talk about football. He was brilliant, do you know what I mean? Him in the middle of the park, Di Canio, Cooper, do you know what I mean?
It's certainly the best team we've had so far. But we'll finish it up with the strikers. Let's start off with your first striker. Who you got there?
Still to come. The striker still to come. Boy, you away, Scotty boy. The two strikers, right? Alan Shearer.
Right. Okay.
So you wouldn't played against him. We played in Blackburn 1995, a long time ago as well. They opened our park that renovated. No, we got the new stands and everything at Rugby Park, and Blackburn came to open the stadium. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and him and Sutton played. I started the game in the bench that day, so I did because we're swapping changes as the game went on. I came on, I think it was 4-0. They ended up being just 5-0. I was on for about 20 minutes and I came up against Alan Shearer. And without doubt, hardest player, for strength-wise I'd ever come up against.
Yeah.
Honestly, I battered into him and just bounced off him. Solid strength, you know what I mean? Strength, he's just a phenomenal player, you know. You know, he just bounced off him and he was quick as you don't think he's quick, but once he was into his stride, maybe I was coming to the end to get it in my career, I was getting too slow right enough. But he could strike a ball, you know.
Yeah.
Strike a ball and run into a ball, and then the movement that he made, you know what I mean? I hadn't come up against that, even in the Premier League. You know, I'd played against like. And I was looking at the forwards. I could have put Hateland, you know what I mean? I could put my pal McCoisty, I could pal him in Coisty, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Shearer was just great in the air, tremendous pinger of a ball, you know what I mean? Positional wise, got the great positions, just had to be on your toes all the time. He didn't give me a minute's peace, you know what I mean? When you're playing at the back, you have a wee bit of ding dong. You know, your centre half's a little ding dong thing, but you could hit him, he would just keep hitting you back. As hard as you hit him, he would hit you back, you know. And I'm saying to myself, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be taking it. You're not supposed to hit me back. You know what I mean? But, well, he was hitting me back, you know.
Yeah, brilliant. Alongside Alan Shearer, who you got?
We'll have to go for Henrik Larsson.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? I think they two would complement each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
The way that Larsson could, drop short for the ball. Do you know what I mean? Go a wee bit deeper in the park and find these wee niches. You know what I mean? In between maybe the likes of Cooper and Di Canio, he found these wee pockets of areas that he would drag centre backs into the areas that apart that wouldn't want to be dragged into. He was that intelligent, you know. Plus he was good for his size in the air and a strong wee bugger as well. You know, and just for him, for his, I just think he'd complement Shearer a bit in there. Do you know what I mean? The two of them good finishers, but I just think he's going a wee bit deeper and get into the wee areas that drag centre backs and people into areas of the park that they wouldn't want to get into. I don't have to explain how good they are or how prolific goal scoring they are. The records show that, so you know all that.
Definitely.
That's the ones I would have up front. You know,
brilliant.
They too.
An unbelievable team, I'd have to say. It's up there. It's up there with the best we've had. It's a great team.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the talent there's crazy. Just as well, like, obviously, we touched on manager like Tommy Burns as well. Like, who would you say was the kind of best manager you had apart alongside like Tommy Burns, obviously Bobby Williamson was a Scottish Cup winning manager as well. Like, would you say Bobby Williamson was good as well for you?
Aye, Bobby was good for us. You know what I mean? Bobby had to learn very quickly. You know, he was just sort of thrust upon him when went into management. You know what I mean? So Bobby was a fine manager. You know what I mean? But he knew the players. You know what I mean? That he was working with as well. And that always helps in management, doesn't it? If you know the players.
Yeah, definitely.
It does.
Definitely. Just as well as that, obviously you've been watching a lot of Kilmarnock this season. How you feel they've been getting on so far? Like, obviously, big news about Eamon Brophy leaving as well. Were you surprised at that? And but how do you kind of think they'll pick up the rest of the season?
Is that Brophy leaving? To be honest with you, Eamon didn't do much for us this season. I mean, a nice lad and everything like that. And he had a phenomenal season under Stevie. You know what I mean? But with Greg Stewart there as well, and I think the two of them complemented each other. You know what I mean? I'm going back to this things that players, you know what I mean, complement each other, and that sometimes happens. You come across somebody you play, a teammate, you can just hit it off. You know, and they two just hit it off. They two, do you know what I mean? And Brophy this season, in his own admission, fell far short of what was he expecting of himself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't know his reasons for that. Maybe he didn't. Forwards need confidence in scoring goals. That's what they breed off. You know what I mean? And he didn't get into a rich vein of form. He didn't put himself in a position to score goals. You know, you've got to earn the right to play in a football park. You know, and I think this season, Eamon was a shadow of the player he was last season. You know, and if it gets to the situation where a player is want to go there as well, away. You know, and I don't mean just for Kilmarnock. I mean it for any club. I'm not too sure I agree with the transfer window, how players can go maybe 6 months before the end. No, these pre-contracts. I think football's since they brought that in, because if you're signing a player for 2 years, if you're signing a 2-year contract, realistically they're only there for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think it's a good thing to have these. That's all my own point of view. I think the clubs get short. I think the clubs and I think the fans get shortchanged with these pre-contract agreements.
Yeah, definitely.
Football's about the fans. It's about the supporters. Absolutely. You know, when your star player signs contracts for 2 years, he's there for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? He's not there for. He shouldn't be there for 16 months and then he signed another contract to go somewhere else. Where's any? I mean, I know I'm a wee bit old-fashioned. I'm going on about loyalty and things like that. But if you sign a contract, you put your name to something, that should be it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm not saying sometimes it comes to an end for unexplainable reasons. Listen, we don't know that, but I'm not. I think the fans. I mean, I think the fans are getting cheated in so many ways now. We've lost ourselves a bit. Football's for the supporters, you know, and our star players of our football clubs are going away in pre-contracts. I mean, how are you a season ticket holder and that, and your star players are going away pre-contract? As I say, I'm not just talking about Kilmarnock. I'm talking about even your big teams. You know what I mean? All football supporters, you know, I feel are getting short-changed with the pre-contract agreements. That's maybe I'm brought up in a different era completely. That's which my team proves that, but it's not all for.
Do you think Alex Dyer can obviously there was a bit of kind of criticism coming his way before Christmas, but a couple of good results and he's kind of turning. I think he will turn it round this season.
Well, I've seen every Kilmarnock every Kilmarnock game I've seen this season, and I would say, with the exception of the Rangers game at Ibrox, we were terrible that day at Ibrox, and I think it was 2-0 the Rangers beat Ibrox that day. With the exception of that game, we have been the victims of we've pressed our own self-destruction button. You know, with maybe an individual mistake or something like that, and that happens too much, and it's a very fine line. I honestly think we should be about 9 or 10 points better off in the league just now than what we really. But we're not. So I think we've been a wee bit unfortunate. I think we've been a wee bit overcritical. People sometimes get, you know. I think we're around now 3 games undefeated. You know what I mean? We were in a bad run there where we came into a dip. We seem to have dipped now. But between out with the top 2 teams, 3 teams, maybe 3, 4 teams in the league, there's not much separating the rest of us. You know, it's not much separating us at all.
Yeah.
You know, on the sort of same level as each other. And I look at some of the games recently, we lose the goal at the last minute, last kick of the ball against Livingston, you know, last kick of the ball against St Johnstone, last kick of the ball against St Mirren. There's 7-9 points.
Yeah.
The final minute of a game or in the 90 plus minute.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just 3 games off the top of my head. That
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Well, I'm sure we will. You know what I mean? I'm sure we will turn it around. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
We're not really to turn around. I hope we'll continue doing the way we're doing. We'll keep a top of it. Do you know what I mean? We're aims at top 6, just getting there. You know, we're in that periphery now. But every game's a hard game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But it's been an absolute pleasure to welcome you on, Ray. I've really enjoyed it. The team is absolutely amazing.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed it, Scott. You've not got to go and ask your old man about all these players.
I watched my videos, I've seen all the players, and I couldn't agree more with your picks. Some of them are all absolutely brilliant. But thanks very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much, Scott, for having us on.
Thanks, Ray. Cheers, mate.
God bless.